Today, we'll check in with our board president about finances, fire, and water, and an update on Tanasi. And the Tellico Village HubSpot recently got a facelift. We'll have a conversation with Beth Kuberka about when and how to use it. All that and more is coming right now, so stay tuned. Welcome to the Tellico Village POA Board Quarterly Update. I'm your host, Carla Johnson, and I'm here today with Board President John Orr to talk about second quarter topics. Welcome, John, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. It's a distinct pleasure to be here with you.
Can you give us a brief overview of what the board's been working on this past quarter?
Like the first quarter, very busy. Got a number of significant projects underway. Partial list would include obviously the Tanasi reconstruction, our financial operating system upgrade, which is a huge project for all of the staff, and that's been underway since the beginning of the year and just went live July 1st. We did an update on our reserve study in Q2. We're continue with our comprehensive policy review, and we're implementing the next phase of our business planning process improvement. For the first time last year, we did full business plans from every department in the village. This year, we're going to update those plans and then add the balanced scorecard, which is a tool that allows us to track progress against the business plan objectives. And of course, we've got several infrastructure projects in the works.
Let's dive right into our second quarter topics. First, an update on the financial health of the village. And we had a recent audit. What were the results of that?
Yes, we completed our annual financial audit, and the auditors gave us a clean bill of health and a clean audit report. So all of our financial reporting is completely in line with standards. So that's a big project for our finance staff. Took several months of hard work to provide all the data that they need to provide that clean audit.
And what's the latest on reserves?
In June, we had roughly $32 million of reserves, and how that breaks down now is we've got roughly $10 million of it allocated to the Tanasi rebuild, another $3 million earmarked for infrastructure projects this year, roads, water, sewer, and then $3 million of capital spend in all the other departments in the POA. So that's roughly $16 million of the $32 million, and that leaves $16 million for future infrastructure projects. So we've got very healthy reserves, and otherwise our financial health has been significantly improved through our continuous improvement efforts. And I'd like to report that through June we have $429,000 worth of continuous improvement savings already identified, and that's against our goal of $500,000 for the year. And I'll also note that this is on top of last year's outstanding performance with regard to continuous improvement, where we had almost $1 million of savings. So we're hitting on all cylinders, got the whole organization engaged in continuous improvements, and it's helping drive additional reserves for all of our infrastructure needs.
And is our revenue and our expenses on track for our budget this year?
Yes, revenue is just a hair off of budget, but expenses are about 5% lower than budget. So we're tracking ahead of budget overall.
Okay, great. So it sounds like we're in excellent financial health.
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly say that as we sit here today, that we're undoubtedly in the best financial position the village probably has ever been in. And while we have some headwinds with infrastructure projects, we're in far better position to deal with those right now than even just a year ago.
So an update on the reserve study is also happening now. So what's the status of that?
Late last year, the board authorized the re-engagement of our consulting firm, Facilities Advisors, that did our first reserve study, to again visit the village and update that study. Reserve studies are required in many states, and it's considered an essential financial planning tool for all POAs, HOAs, condo associations. Our first ever reserve study in the village was conducted in 2022, and normally you would update these on about 5-year cycle, but given some of the issues we had with the first one, we decided to get it done sooner. So that was done in Q2. The consultants were here in May, early May, got their work done by the end of May, and then our management and staff poured through all the results of that reserve study that the consultants did, making any necessary changes and updates. We now are essentially complete with this version of the reserve study. So I guess I could say that the results are far better than the first time around. Everybody was engaged in providing the necessary details for every capital asset the village has, which would include in-service dates for every asset, useful lives, original cost. All that goes into the model, and it spits out a report for the next 30 years of what we might anticipate spending to replace these assets over the next 30 years. So it's an essential tool that will really help our financial planning in the long term.
Were there any significant changes in the reserve study to note?
Well, in addition to the much greater detail on our assets, the other most significant change was how we handled long-lived assets. And these are things like roads, water pipe, sewer pipe, things that last upwards of 100 years. And they were included in the last reserve study. And while they're in the reserve study, they are not in the 30-year window that we operate within when we look at a reserve study. It only goes out 30 years. And so these assets typically have continued useful life beyond that 30-year window right now. So it changes the outlook significantly when you take big dollar amounts like roads and water pipes out. But once they get to 30-year useful life, they will then start showing up in our reserve report, and we will start reserving for that replacement.
And how can villagers find out more about the reserve study?
In the very near future, TVN is going to produce a video with probably the Finance Advisory Committee that was most involved with this to go over the details of what changed reserve study to reserve study, how we look at it, and go through some of the reports to better educate property owners.
An ongoing project that continues to evolve is updating our water and sewer utility. The board, staff, and advisory committees continue to work toward a good solution to expanding and improving the service for our growing village. What's the latest news?
Well, I'll start with the big news for Q2. The FAC recommended and the CFO concurred to suspend the $80 water sewer fee indefinitely. This recommendation to suspend was driven by a number of changes since the recommendation was implemented a little over a year ago. First and foremost was the reassessment of the total cost of these projects. Back in Q1 of '24, our financial model estimated that the cost of the 5 major projects would be about $36 million and be completed within 5 years. But by June of this year, we had much better information. We're 1 year smarter. And the overall project total was reduced to about 29 to 30 million. And one contributing factor, which probably brought it down the most, was The original estimate had odor control as a whole separate project in and of itself. And what is being done now is odor control is being engineered into the lift station improvements. So it's not a separate project, it's all part of the lift station improvement project. So we could reduce some costs there. Also, timing of the projects has been extended. The original model showed that we would have 2 projects under construction by now. And as most everybody knows, we don't have any projects under construction. So the time frame has been lengthened, which also allows more time to accumulate reserve funds to fund these projects. And as I mentioned earlier, our continuous improvement efforts have also gave us more financial reserves. The other contributing factor to allow us to suspend the $80 fee was our improved financial condition and our improving of our amenity businesses. And that has led to reduced subsidies in those amenity business, golf, rec, food service, by almost $900,000 year over year. So we're heading in the right direction with all of those businesses. And these improvements in our financial position, as well as the money collected from the fee over the last 9 months, resulted in our financial model supporting that suspension. And I can tell you that when we updated the model in June, we were literally at the tipping point where it showed that we had just enough reserves and future cash flow to fund our projects. Of course, we don't yet have perfect clarity on the scope or timing of these projects, since you never really have complete clarity until the contract is signed to build the project. But we are going to continuously monitor all the different variables that go into our financial model and ensure that we're on a very stable financial footing.
Well, and we appreciate the ongoing efforts that are being made by everyone involved. This is one of those situations where it does take a village, right,
Yeah.
to get that figured out. So thank you for continuing to work on that. Now, there were some major projects related to that. One is the rainwater infiltration and intrusion into our wastewater system. What's the latest on that study?
Yeah, we've got a number of projects underway to address our utility infrastructure needs. One is obviously the rainwater infiltration into our wastewater system. Since January, we've had a crew systematically going to every property in the village to inspect wastewater tanks. And we currently are about 40% complete with that inspection of every tank, and identified issues at about 500 tanks so far that we are progressing through the correction of those issues as we identify them. The goal of this project is to reduce surface rainwater from getting into the tanks through the lids. The success of the effectiveness of this project is hard to measure, and to date we have not had a wet weather event at the level that has caused issues in the past. While we've had a very wet spring, we did not have the intensity and duration of rainfall that we've had in the past that caused problems in our system. So we are very hopeful that this project will eliminate enough rainwater infiltration that we no longer have overflow issues, for example.
Now you have another project that is close to being started, right? And that's the main pump station at Sequoia Road.
Yeah, so we've got the engineering complete on that. We've gone out to bid, and the timing was not conducive to a lot of the contractors being able to complete it in the time frame we were looking to complete it. So several of them were not able to bid because they could not start the project right away. So we're regrouping on that and determining best steps forward, including options to rehabilitate our current lift station in order to get more life out of that before we have to replace the entire lift station. So we're looking at all options, and it's a long overdue update that's needed at that lift station. You know, we need to upgrade our pumps to variable speed. Right now the pump is either off or on full speed. There's no in between, and this causes sudden pressure changes in our line to LUB, which puts stress on that line. But with variable speed, you would also have a positive impact on odor, because the level of the wet well does not change significantly like it does now. And then we need remote monitoring on these lifts, on all the lift stations. So there's some critical updates that need to be done as soon as we can get them done.
And right now, when you talk about remote monitoring, right now for that to happen, somebody has to actually physically be on site, correct?
Yeah, the only way to know what's happening is to be on site and looking at the pumps themselves.
Okay, and I know you're also looking at working with LUB and TAS, right?
Yes, we are engaged with both of our utility partners, LUB and TAS, and looking at what they can do to help us. In years past, we had a very poor relationship with these folks, and over the last several years with new management, we've repaired those relationships, and now we've got a very good working relationship and good dialogue with them. One thing I will note is that we are participating with LUB to explore the possibility of a new river crossing for wastewater. As most people know, part of our problem is the limitations of LUB to get wastewater across the river for not only us but other systems in the area. So that study is going on now, and we hope to have some answers by midsummer of the potential for engaging in this project with them.
That's great. So that's going to be ongoing dialogue and working with them to improve that. So another exciting project that we're all looking forward to being completed is the Tanasi Golf Clubhouse and Restaurant. And as you just mentioned about water and sewer, we did have a very rainy spring, and I was wondering if this has impacted the timeline of for completion of the Tanasi Clubhouse.
Well, unfortunately it has. Weather has not cooperated so far this year. We started out with below normal temperatures in the early part of the year, went to a very rainy spring. In fact, the contractor reported that in the month of May, they only had 8 working days due to the rain. And then you jump into June, and we had above average temperatures with heat indexes well over 100 degrees, which tends to slow things down a little bit. So right now we are tracking roughly 60 days behind schedule. Contractor's hoping with good weather over the summer he can make some of that up. But the anticipated completion date now has shifted from end of Q1 to sometime in Q2 of 2026.
Well, and so far we've gone from one extreme to the other, right? So inevitably that can slow things down. So where are you? I know you've made significant progress. What's the status update of that construction project?
Well, everybody is probably aware that we've got the new parking lot open and being used on a daily basis. The concrete foundation has been poured for the cart barn, and structural steel is on site, and they're working on the cart barn ceiling, which will end up being the floor for the pro shop. Anticipating that concrete will be poured on that in about mid-July. And soon they're going to start working on the restaurant side of the building, starting out with all of the under slab electrical and plumbing work, and then backfilling and start going up. So, but otherwise,
that'll be the exciting part, right? When we can start seeing that progress going up.
Because right now it's all been groundwork.
Right. Of course, that's also very vital, right? We want to make sure that it stays there for a long time.
You got to have a good foundation.
Exactly. So, and now the Food Services Advisory Committee did a survey to name the restaurant. What did they come up with?
Yep, they did a survey, got good participation, and they have recommended the name for the new restaurant to be the Tanasi Lakeside Grill. That was the #1 name chosen by property owners.
All right, we'll be anticipating that opening. And I want to remind you, as I mentioned last quarter, 2 elements that many property owners would like to see included at Tanasi are golf simulator bays and an outdoor fireplace for the patio lounge area. Timeless Teleco Foundation is providing opportunities to help make these amenity enhancements a reality. If you are interested in learning more about the foundation or to donate to the projects, please visit timelessteleco.com. And remember, golf operations at Tanasi will continue throughout the construction project, but expect some changes as we go through the process, like auto and golf cart traffic flows. Please continue to book tee times at Tanasi during construction. The construction project managers and golf maintenance staff are working to ensure that the golf experience maintains our high standards with very few disruptions. Updates will be sent out by the golf department, published in the Telegram, and posted to the POA website. To receive the most up-to-date information, I encourage you to sign up for the Teleco Village Golf mailing list if you haven't already. Just call any of our pro shops or email Tanasi head golf professional Lucas Forstrom and ask to be added to the mailing list. His email address is lforstrom@tvpoa.org. The board had a brief discussion regarding the topic of a fire station for the Kahiti neighborhood. What can you tell our viewers about that?
Q2, we've had multiple meetings with multiple different folks. The Von Orr mayor, the Von Orr fire chief, Hopewell fire chief, Teleco Village volunteer fire chief, and representatives from the Kahiti property owners. And we're all working together to determine next steps for a potential fire station and ultimately better fire response in Kahiti. The board right now is considering a draft agreement that we would enter into with Hopewell that would provide proportionate funding for Hopewell with the same calculus that we use for funding of the Teleco Village Volunteer Fire Department. So that would be the first step that we would need to do in order to allow us to take it to the next step, which would be a lease for the land that they could potentially build a fire station on.
Okay, so that's ongoing discussions,
Yes.
right? So we'll also keep an eye on that and keep our viewers informed as that progresses. So as I mentioned in the opening, we do have a special guest joining us in the studio today, but before she does, I'd like to thank you, John, for taking the time to be here and keep our viewers informed about board activities.
Well, thanks for having me.
Of course, and we'll see you again here in September for the next quarterly update.
Thanks.
Thank you. Joining us now is Teleco Village Communications Leader, Beth Kaburka. Welcome, Beth, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure as always.
Well, we invited you to come and tell us a little bit about the recent facelift that HubSpot got and what it is and when and how to use it.
Yeah. So HubSpot is an online ticketing tool that property owners and even staff can use for a variety of reasons. They can use it to report things, to request things, to just ask general questions. It's really an open source for any type of item. So as you can see, this is our new logo, and what we wanted to do is create something that stands out, that's different from a lot of our other script, so it's easily recognizable, and I think we've accomplished that.
It looks great.
Yeah.
Looks
So
great.
it's your go-to spot for Teleco Village questions, help, and more.
Terrific. So tell us about when to use it.
So you can use it pretty much 24/7, 7 days a week, for everything except emergencies. Emergencies, like if you need public works, water or sewer issues, a tree is down in the road, you need to call the main public works phone number. That is what is going to generate an urgency, I need assistance immediately. In HelpSpot, it can be a little confusing because there is a tab to make something urgent, but that's not the type of urgent we're talking about. The urgent on HelpSpot is like, I'm a POA employee and my credit card processor is not working. That's an urgent IT request. So there is a little bit difference. So I think, especially after hours when you're not sure, to always use the Public Works number.
And that Public Works number is displayed on the screen, so be sure and write that down so that you'll have it when you need it. But that's strictly for emergencies,
Yes.
because HelpSpot will work otherwise in just about any situation.
Correct.
So is filling out a HelpSpot better than an email or phone call?
It is, absolutely. So in email, one of the main things that can happen is it can get lost or it can get buried. For someone like myself who receives sometimes hundreds of emails a day, I might lose track of it. So the HelpSpot is good because it's an online ticketing system, and once you fill out a HelpSpot, you'll receive a ticket number, and you'll be able to use that ticket to log back in and to follow along on your request. And it's very good for staff as well because we can kind of see where we left off, and it notifies us on the back end that we haven't responded. So it's very helpful in that regard. Also, I think it's important for people to understand that whenever you turn in a HelpSpot, an admin is going to respond to you immediately or soon and let you know that who your ticket has been assigned to. And then they're going to let you know within 1 business day that you should hear back from that person regarding your item. On the weekends, it's not going to be that quick because most staff is off on the weekends, although we do try to keep an eye on it. But it is a really good tool, and I think it's helpful for villagers. I know, Carla, you've had good experience with using it as well, and it's very helpful for both staff and property owners.
And I see you brought your laptop with you today, so can you do a demonstration of how you fill out a HelpSpot ticket?
Absolutely, be happy to. All right, so what's important to note is I'm currently not logged into the POA website at all, and nor do property owners have to be logged in order to use the HelpSpot. So on the bottom of every screen on the website are helpful contacts. And so you'll see right here is HelpSpot, and all you have to do is click that, and it takes you to the actual HelpSpot webpage. And on this page, there are some frequently asked questions right here that people can go to, and a lot of times they're going to get their questions answered and not have to necessarily fill out a HelpSpot, especially if it's just more of a general question. So I would recommend people kind of look there first. But if they know it's for sure something that they need to, then right up here under Home is Submit a Request, and you just click on that. And then all you're going to do is fill this out. We've added a new item, street address, because we seem to be asking people a lot of times, well, where do you live? And then put the details here. I need a rock along the road. There's a valve broke on my water meter. Can you send someone to check it out? I think that I might have a water leak. That's probably one you should call about, but let's just use that as an example. And then there's also the ability to attach phone numbers. So like if your mailbox is in need of repair and you want to know, do you need a replacement or can it be fixed? If you uploaded a couple photos, that would help staff determine what's necessary without having to come to your house originally. And then as soon as you do that, we have a little capsula here to make sure that you are a human, and then you submit a request, and then immediately you're going to receive an email that gives you your ticket number that you can actually use as a link to log back into HelpSpot and check on it.
So once someone has submitted a request and gotten a response, how do they go back in to check the status of that request?
Okay, so as I said before, you'll get a confirmation email with your ticket number. So what you'll do is you'll take that ticket number, and right under where we submitted our request, you'll go to check on a request. And then all you need to do is take your ticket number and put into this box and hit check. And that will send you into the system, and you'll get a running dialogue with whoever you've been working with.
So the whole history of all the conversation that you've had with it. Okay,
Yeah.
That's terrific. Now, one more thing, where do viewers go if they have a question about this, if they need to ask something more?
Yeah, so if you have a question on HelpSpot in general, you can do info@tvpoa.org or stop into the Welcome Center, and any of the staff there will be able to help you.
So thank you so much. I appreciate you being here today.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll get your expertise on other topics in the future.
Well, hopefully. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And that's a wrap for your second quarter POA board update. Thank you for tuning in. And remember, you can watch the live stream of board meetings as they happen or on demand later. Just visit the Tellico Village Network YouTube channel under Live, and there you will find videos of past board and town hall meetings. Be sure to join us again next quarter for more timely topics. As always, thank you for watching Tellico Village Network. We'll see you next time.